First of all, let me just straight up ask you, Michael, what is the University of Buffalo known for? And they have taken it upon themselves to warn, applicants, faculty members, students about Michael Knowles. Where does this come from, and what is the University of Buffalo trying to do with this position?
I am not terribly familiar with the University of Buffalo. I'm not a graduate of the University of Buffalo. I've never been employed by the University of Buffalo. So I was as surprised as anyone to find that I am featured on the homepage of one of the university's academic departments. Not only featured, but I actually make up the second paragraph on the study department, in which I am denounced repeatedly for apparently having called for genocide. So any sort of denouncement for just never been particularly gung-ho for would be surprising. But I suppose the cherry on top of this bizarre little sundae is that I've only visited the University of Buffalo on one occasion about a year and a half ago. I was invited to give a speech. The speech was on feminism, and then I was denounced for observing that transgenderism isn't real and is not conducive to anyone's flourishing because it isn't real, in a different speech that I gave more than 2 years ago at a different event in Washington, D.C.
So I'm going to read the statement here that they have, or they had actually. So I've just checked. They have changed it as of at least a bit of go within the last day since I last checked it. We checked it before we came on. They have changed it, but this is what it did say. The faculty of the Media Study Department stand in solidarity with the transgender community. I got to do the AOC thing here. And others who have been the target of Michael Knowles' rhetoric and threats of eradication and genocide. While we are committed to the free and open exchange of ideas, we are also committed to inclusiveness, social justice, and respect for all. There is no space for hate speech, as there can be no open exchange of ideas without inclusion, justice, and respect. We view Michael Knowles' public appearance on our campus as contrary to the values and aims of our academic community. Now, I have just checked. They have changed, to confirm, they have changed their whole front page here. Now, the main header stays the same, where they introduce the department and everything, but they have replaced it with two larger statements likely to distract the reader. One says Department of Media Study Diversity Statement and Values, and another says Department of Media Study Action Plan for Diversity. So now, Michael, they have replaced their comments about you in the last 24 hours with a land acknowledgement, and I'll read part of that too. We are proud to be a part of a public land grant university whose mission is to provide access and opportunities for all people, Black, Indigenous, persons of color. We operate on the territory of the Seneca Nation, a member of the Haudenosaunee Six Nations Confederacy. Tra-la-la. Michael, they appear to have changed their tune a little bit. Why do you think that is? Can you give any insight as to why it's so important to denounce what you allegedly have said in the past and apparently present, that we just change it on a whim as soon as people get notion of it?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that we won, and I, after a year and a half, will no longer be permanently denounced on the homepage of a public university's academic department. It shows you that these people, with a little bit of reason and a little bit of pushback, will fold like a cheap suit. I suspect that the reason they took it down is not because they like me all of a sudden or they realize that a man can't really become a woman. I suspect the reason they took it down is the same reason that Rolling Stone changed its defamatory headline about me shortly after I gave my speech at CPAC a couple years ago. Same reason that Huffington Post changed its defamatory headline against me, which is that they were legally liable for libel. Even in our corrupted political system, one cannot simply go about accusing other people of calling for genocide without facing the possibility of legal repercussions. And while American law sets a rather high threshold on libel, for libel and defamation, there is still a limit, and they transgressed that limit quite clearly. For those who don't remember the speech that I gave now long ago, I said that for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely, the whole preposterous ideology at every level. I'm not really sure how one could infer from that rather clear statement that I wanted anyone to suffer a genocide. In fact, I said that in particular, the poor people who are suffering from confusion over their sex would stand to benefit from obliterating this, or eradicating, pulling up from the root, this ideological confusion that is contrary to reality. And it's a confusion that's being peddled at the highest levels of our liberal political order. It holds that a man can be a woman and a woman can become a man. And if one suffers any sort of sexual confusion, that one ought to mutilate oneself, castrate oneself, take cross-sex hormones that lead to sterility, and follow a psychological program that the best data we have show leads to anxiety, depression, and even suicidality at rather high numbers. So I'm glad that the lawyers presumably called up the media study department and told them to shape up a little bit before the public university at Buffalo faced a defamation lawsuit.
Turn it up, Jordan.